Okay. Okay.
Don't yell, Leonard, please.
Welcome aboard, everybody. Welcome aboard and welcome back. Welcome back for those of you who missed last week's Lady in the Legend, or for those of you who left Lady in the Legend.
Did people leave?
I don't know if anybody left. I know we left. One of the reasons there was no Lady in the Legend on demand was because we didn't put it up. It was the only time in the history of radio that both radio hosts dropped the mic and walked off. All right? And that's what we did. All right? So anyway, good morning to everybody. What?
I mean, we're not the only people that have fights.
No, we are. We're the only ones who walk off.
We make other people feel better when they do.
Well, we're back this week, and nice to see the chat room loading up with Anthony D.B. Miller, Boston Paul, Brewer Jim.
Nice to see Brewer Jim
Eddie
back.
Heckman, James Caprion, maybe related to Brewer Jim. Jeff Lang is here for the first time. Nice to see you, Jeff. Mal Powell, Rotorius, Tommy Johnston, and still plenty of room for a lot more people. And away we go.
And Gallo.
And Chris Gallo, here you go. Good morning to you all. Now, we're going to be giving out the phone number, okay, and allowing you to, this is just like a Tommy Johnston, just like a real radio show, right?
Okay.
Just like a real radio show, but it's going to be a little different. Keep in mind, we don't have a producer to answer the calls, so we have to keep letting it ring. If you get a busy signal, you're going to have to call back. You can't just sit on hold. If we're in the middle of a topic, we may not interrupt, so you may not get on. Just remember, you're calling a regular phone, okay? And we're figuring it out. But, as we go. So be part of it. Understand we don't have a producer sitting there, but we'll have better than that.
I hope Laura comes.
Yeah, well, she'll be here. If this was Sirius Radio and you would have commercials, what would we be talking about right now? And NASCAR, right? We'd have a NASCAR commercial.
Yeah, we would.
No, we've been talking about NASCAR. Anyway, let's get to it. 79 degrees. 79 degrees where Eddie Heckman is, or Chris Gallo. Who knows? All right,
that was on Thursday, Leonard.
That was on Thursday. Let's get to the exciting part. Now, for those of you who saw...
Should I put the phone number in?
Yeah, give the phone number.
So when you call up, you got to have a question. You can't just call to chat.
Okay.
We're going to talk about fantasy baseball. So if you have a question, or if you want, our opinion on a couple of players, we'll be happy to help you out. But it's not for just chatting, right?
Right. 631.
No, we'll tell it in the chat room.
40, so we'll put it in the chat room. Go ahead.
You're not allowed to call unless you're in the chat room.
631-406-7141. Okay? There you go. Putting it in the chat room as well. Now, you may have seen that Clayton Kershaw announced at Dodger camp that he was taken off the World Baseball Classic roster. Does anybody, including you, Genius...
I know why.
Does anybody... You do know why?
Well, this is what the sports media vultures are saying.
But here's what's happening. You see that, same way we saw Acuna, and his fantasy value drops right away. When you saw Kershaw was taken off the World Baseball... back to the busy phones.
All
Let's see. Who is it?
Let's see.
Okay. Back to the busy phones.
Hello?
Heckman.
Hi, Eddie.
I thought I'd try to be the first one to call today.
The first one to call, Eddie. Thank you very much.
Wasn't he the first one?
He was the leader of the pack many years ago. So what's on your mind there, Eddie?
Hi, Eddie. Hello, I'm glad to be here. Question.
You got to turn your, you got to...
Thank you very much. He was the leader of the pack many
Eddie.
years ago. So what's on your mind?
I'm turning.
Okay.
All right, you see, it's working very well. All right, thanks, Eddie. You're going to have to call back.
No, he's fine. He just had to turn off the player.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're the first one.
Turn off the player
He
when
did.
you call. All right.
I know Lenny's already answered this, but I was going to ask Andrea, who should be my number one pick in a draft? 15-team mixed league. I have picked 1, 30, and 31. I know Lenny said Ramirez, but who do you say?
Yeah, I have to go with him on that one. So, do you have the first pick?
Really?
First pick is usually Ramirez in today's day. Eddie Ekman, thank you for being the first caller. Thank you for getting it all right, and we love you, man. Thanks, Eddie. Now, keep in mind, we can't spend a lot of time on the calls, but if you have a specific question, go ahead. We're still trying to figure out why Clayton Kershaw was taken off the World Baseball Classic.
If Eddie has the first pick, he has to take Ramirez.
Of
That's
course,
all there is
yes.
to it.
He's the easiest
if he
one.
doesn't have the first pick, he's probably not going to get Jose Ramirez.
He's got all the categories.
All right. Clayton Kershaw was taken off he had to back out. Basically, his insurance company forced him to.
His insurance, it wasn't because of an injury then, right?
No, he just can't get insured because of his back problems.
So you shouldn't take off any value on Kershaw. When Acuna came off the World Baseball Classic, his value went down as well.
Why?
Because people assumed it was because something was bothering him. It was some kind of injury related.
Well, that's just stupid.
And it's not like that with Clayton Kershaw.
It's
right?
not this. I don't think that he's injured as we speak.
No,
but they don't want him injured.
It was an exorbitant insurance premium that was required to cover his past back woes.
Now, when you call in, you have to turn off your audio on your computer or your phone. So.
That's right. 631-406-7141. 631-406-7141.
Guess what this is? If the Red Sox... Is King Hap here?
No.
If the Red Sox beat the Yankees... And this is for you, Boston Paul. If the Red Sox beat the Yankees every game for the next 17 years... The head-to-head series would be tied at 1,234 apiece with 14 ties. That's 13 games per season for the next 17 seasons. That's how far back the Red Sox are in head-to-head with the Yankees.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, Mitchell and Merrill are here. Okay, Eddie Caprio has joined us once again. It's great to see you all in the chat room. 631-406-7141. Phone is ringing again. Don't forget, make it short, make it sweet, and go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Good.
Who's this?
It's Mitch.
Hi, Mitchell.
Okay. What's up, Mitch?
So,
got to keep it quick.
Only a knucklehead would pass on Teoscar Hernandez to take Oscar Colas.
Wait. That's you.
I wasn't even spoken to Doobie.
Why don't you tell everybody, why do you like him so much?
I like the fact that he's Yasiel Puig with a brain.
Okay. But he's not in the majors. Is he going to make it to the majors this year quickly?
Okay, he's Cuban. I like the fact that he played 2 years in Japan or Korea somewhere. He's got probably 60 rated power. He's going to be given every chance to get the right field job. You know what? I'm more excited about my wife than Gavin Sheets.
Well, who are we talking about now? Teoscar Hernandez?
No, he's talking about Oscar Colas. Because in our...
the White Sox. Yeah, go ahead.
In our American League only draft, he drafted him really high.
Good.
Yeah, now, you know what? It was too much of a reach, but I do like the guy. Obviously, I should have taken Teoscar Hernandez, but that's life.
Well,
Okay.
This is a keeper league, and you get to keep these guys, even though Wait, was he in the top 4 rounds?
He was 5th round.
All right, so you do get a chance to keep him just in case he's really good. But he's made it to AAA. He had 31 at-bats at AAA last year, 387 average, 2 home runs, and 1 stolen base. But he played 3 levels last year, and it's an interesting tidbit that they are going to give him a chance to play based on how he does at spring training. And, when I saw you draft him so early, I drafted him in our SXM Dynasty League. So I hope that is a compliment towards you, Mitch. See you later.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate your call. Oscar Colas, remember him. He's going to be the starting right fielder for the Chicago White Sox, and somebody that you got to pay attention to.
Let's talk about Robbie Grossman.
Robbie Grossman was signed. In our league, I don't think anybody took Robbie Grossman in our American League only league.
Well, let me just check that out.
And of course, when you have an American League only or a National League only, or any league, and you're drafting and players haven't been signed, especially if it's an only league. If he was signed by a National League team, it would have been nothing. Now, I took Profar.
Wasn't drafted.
He was not drafted.
Right.
Not drafted at all. I took Profar and who else? Who's the other guy?
I have no idea who you took, Leonard.
I took two guys who were not drafted, and I think they were good moves. But if they sign with the American League, I'm okay. National League, I'm not. So Grossman was the last viable free agent outfielder selected.
Which is pretty bad.
He's a switch-hitting 10-year veteran, okay, playing in Texas.
All right.
He had a career in 2021. He had 23 homers and stole 20 bases.
Right, and then he sunk last year. And here's the thing. He might be a switch hitter, but he's having a real struggle hitting right-handed pitching. He batted 163 last year against right-handed pitchers and 320 against lefties. And he does hit anywhere in the lineup. It'll be interesting to see where he gets slotted in. But 209 average, and with the fact we're going to say this a lot today about the stolen bases because everybody's catching on. Stolen bases are going to be a dime a dozen. They're going with the bases being bigger. This guy, he's basically an average hitter that could, and his pop is not that great.
Well, he hit 320 last year against left-handed pitching. 320.
Right, but he hit 163 against righties.
Okay, but he's a 279, 280 hitter.
No.
Against lefties.
Okay.
Lefties.
All right. His
You got
contact
that?
rate was the worst in his career last year. He does take a walk, so maybe in on-base percentages, he's not going to kill you.
Robbie Grossman could be a very
I think they're going to let him play every day.
interesting pitcher. Okay, we'll see. All right?
Machado.
Machado.
The Macho Man.
He said, now, I think this is a no-brainer. Now,
You're crazy.
I know him from New York. He set, he did set a February deadline for extension talks. The team offered him 5-year, $105 million. He turned it down, and the team sitting and waiting for him, to me, with everybody I talk to, it's like a no-brainer. It's going to be the Mets.
Machado is so good. Why would his agent accept the first offer given to him when he has a whole other season and he's so sturdy? This guy never hits the disabled list. He's always healthy. He's a macho man, and he's going to carry this team offensively. Defensively, he might be the best third baseman in baseball. He's not going anywhere, but he's certainly not going to take the first offer that's thrown at him, especially when he rarely spends any time injured. Excuse me.
Okay, anyway.
Now let's talk about injured.
Want to say hello to NFL Chief, who's in the chat room for the first time. Nice to see you all. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're trying something. We're on 6 days a week now. Arnie is here. We're going to be on 7 days a week pretty soon.
And Caprio.
Come on, Eddie Caprio. We love you guys. And, of course, Machado.
Speaking of injuries.
He will sign with the Mets.
Oh,
but
BS.
Speaking of injuries.
McCullers, again.
Not the news you want to hear right
Maybe it is.
It is.
Maybe it is.
Why?
Because right now at draft season, this might be the news you want to hear.
Yeah,
Lance McCullers has never been known for his sturdiness like Machado. Okay,
right.
He's not.
I have though, right?
Of course, Leonard.
Okay.
But now Lance
I've been known
McCullers
for my sturdiness.
is undergoing treatment already. He's been temporarily shut down, which is going to push his ADP far down the ladder. Now, this guy is one of the best pitchers. If you would even consider drafting a guy like Glasnow, you have to also consider drafting a guy like McCullers.
Well, he was limited to just 8 starts last year. He had arm troubles. Doesn't have a specific, but
troubles.
He doesn't have a specific diagnosis. It says he's a little sore at the moment.
Okay, that's great for fantasy managers.
Have you ever heard me say that?
I drafted him in AL, so I'm probably biased.
Okay.
Okay, I had to draft the guy.
All right.
Now, there's a big difference between his home and away splits. Just thought I'd mention this. This doesn't have anything to do with the fact that his underlying skill stats are excellent. If he could pitch a full season ever, he would be one of the best pitchers in baseball. He did have a huge split in stats last year with home and away. At home, he pitched an ERA of 1.5, and away it was 3.57. The guy... his walk rate has gone up a little bit. Over the last 2 seasons, you've seen his walk rate jump to over 4 walks per 9 innings. Mm-hmm. But He's got a 25.6% strikeout rate and a 50% ground ball rate.
You can't draft Lance McCullers.
Yes, you can.
He's too iffy.
No, depends on
McCullers
where.
is too iffy.
It depends
I
on
don't
where.
know. He's 29. He's got a 3.1 something ERA, a 1.2 something with 290 strikeouts
He
in
hit
47
100
starts. 47 starts over the last 3 innings. How do you draft this guy?
last 3 seasons.
Yeah, last 3 seasons.
Last year he was hurt once again, but in 2021 he threw 162 innings, so we know he's capable of doing it. You know, it depends on where he goes in drafts, but I guarantee this little spout with the being shut down already is going to hurt his ADP, and it's going to be beneficial to people who can see past that. Maybe or maybe not. You never know.
Reading about the Rangers and general manager Chris Young said that he plans to get Jake DeGrom back out on the field.
He's already out there right now.
Just playing catch.
Right, but on Monday they say he's going to pitch.
So let me ask you a question. Would you rather have 5 years of Jake DeGrom on your team or 2 years of Justin Verlander?
Oh, I'll take Verlander.
You'll take Verlander?
I mean, look, there's no question that DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball.
Okay.
In quotation marks, when he's healthy.
All right.
When he's healthy.
Let's
Now we're going to talk about...
Now, that gets you up to date on the latest things that have happened, including...
I have a lot to say today, Leonard.
Including the lady and the legend actually talking to each other again, all right? It's been a week, all right? That's good enough. But we have a bunch of players who
Not
have...
a bunch, 12.
Who have been headliners all spring so far. And yet each one of these headliners has a fatal flaw attached to them. Not fatal, but it could be a reason why you just...
Who wrote this article that we're referencing here? Is this Scott Swainey?
No,
Who
it's
is
not
this?
Scott Swainey. I don't remember, but it was...
Well, we should give credit to the guy
Scott, I don't remember who. I believe it was... it might have been Scott White.
Scott White.
I don't
Yes,
know.
because he used to write at CBS.
Yes.
It's definitely Scott White.
Anyway, we're talking about... And by the way, Scott Stuhlmaker, if you're listening, sent me an email to ask me this question. Shane McClanahan. Everybody loves it. He's everybody loves him. Scott wants to know if he thinks McClanahan is injured. Okay.
Why would he be? Why would he think that?
Well, he had a Jekyll and Hyde season where he had an amazing first half.
Yes.
He had a 1.7 ERA in the first. He held opposing hitters to well under 180. All right, 9 wins, and then he was on the injured list. Came back with a promising outlook.
One outing, he had a good outing.
And then struggled in the other outings in the second half. So the question is he hurt? And that we don't know.
Last year, he threw 43 innings more than his career high, and he totaled 166 and a third innings. So, you look at that and you say, well, you're going to draft this guy. I drafted him in the second round of the AL only league.
Yeah.
And I was almost the last pick, so it was really early in the second round. He did have an excellent first half. The second half was not as good, but he still was very good. And he might be the hardest throwing left-handed pitcher we've ever seen in baseball.
And he's got such great ability, his ability.
What do you mean ability? You have to be specific.
As you just said, he throws hard. He's got all the pitch mix stuff that you need. He's got elite ground ball skills. He's got the highest swinging strike rate. What's not to like about him?
Right.
He has not put this all together yet, and he's got some potential injury problems. So what do you think?
I don't think he has any injury problems going into this season at all. We'll see in spring, but I highly doubt it. His strikeout rate is probably one of the best in baseball for sure. And I drafted him, so I'm a little biased, and it's hard for me to see past that. But I guarantee that this guy is going to be good.
You guarantee?
See, Scott,
what do you mean you guarantee? I guarantee that he's not going to make the whole season.
Maybe.
I guarantee he won't hit 180 innings, and I'll tell you why.
He probably won't. But what pitcher does nowadays?
He's 6'1", not exactly Randy Johnson.
Holy cow.
And he's the hardest throwing left-handed starter ever. Ever.
I already said that.
I know. Well, I said it again. but he's only 6'1", and he needed a couple of weeks for. He had a shoulder impingement. He didn't look right after he came back. I'll tell you something. His swinging strike rate went from 16.3 in the first half. He had 24 starts to 9.6 in his last 4. I'm telling you, something's not right with McClanahan.
Maybe he was just getting tired because he pitched 43 innings more than he ever had in his career.
Well, maybe.
That's my
But
theory.
I would stay away because
you're just jealous because you didn't get him.
his price is going to go through the roof.
He is high. He's
And
rated.
I would stay with
I
him.
would take Justin Verlander over him.
631-406-7141. I think we're going to get the hang of the phone number and the whole thing. Thanks for being here. NFL Chief is here. Star Dog is here. We are rocking and rolling in the chat room. Tommy Johnston, Mitchell Merrill, Eddie Caprio.
Okay.
Whoa, we are going wild. So let's talk about the next guy who I think you got to be careful is Dylan Cease.
Everybody on this list, you have to be careful.
You got to be careful with everyone
let me just
we're
clarify.
mentioning.
Scott White, when writing this article about
I
these,
don't know if it was Scott White.
it was. I
don't
guarantee
know.
it was because he used to write at CBS, and that's who it is.
Okay.
He made it very clear that these are not necessarily bust players, but it's in comparison to where they're going on in ADP right now in fantasy, and that there's probably other players being taken at the same area of the draft that are just as good or better and don't have as many potential for downside. Dylan Cease is on the list, age 27.
His strikeouts are tremendous, but so are his walks. He led the majors in 78 walks. His rate of just under 4 per 9 innings was the highest among starting pitching qualifiers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and look, here's the thing about Dylan Cease, especially if you watch some of his games. He beats himself. He beats himself typically by walking people. And by walking people at the wrong, there's no right time to walk somebody. Maybe there is.
No, there's not a right time.
Not a right time. Bases low, nobody on base, 2 out, good hitter up.
That's an
Home run
intentional
hitter.
walk, and it doesn't count.
No, all right.
Does it count? Anyway, here's the thing. In 2021, he had a 3.91 ERA, even though his walk rate and his strikeout rate were actually better than they were last year. So his 2.20 ERA in 2022 is misleading because he had a 14-start stretch in the middle of the year in which his ERA was .66. He had only 6 runs.
Say that again?
His ERA over a 14-start stretch in the middle of the year was .66.
Yeah, he was that good. Right.
But he had 6 earned runs during that 14-start stretch, but he also had 10 unearned runs,
Right.
which, okay, in theory, those shouldn't count against a pitcher's abilities. But if all of those unearned runs were actually earned runs, his ERA would have been 2.69. And interesting, the biggest thing about Dylan Cease is that his xFIP, his expected fielding independent percentage, was 3.5 last year. So yes, he's his own worst enemy when it comes to walks. Last year he had a career high number of starts, 32. He made 32 starts last season. That was the second straight season, and finished with a career high 184 innings. I just think he also had an 82.3% left on base, which is going to even out eventually. Those runners aren't going to be 82% left on base.
All right.
So
Hey,
Dylan
Chris
Cease,
from Cambridge is here. Good morning, Chris.
his ADP
Yeah.
is 43 overall, which is, can you even imagine 2 years ago saying that you were going to draft Dylan Cease number 43 overall?
Everybody's jumping on top of him because he had such a great stretch last year, but the question is, can he do it for the entire season?
All right, what do you think of Michael Harris?
Oh, wait a second. 631-406-7141. If you'd like to make a call, make it quick, present your question, and we'll see if we can get you some answers.
We have a 21-year-old center fielder, Michael Harris.
Oh, everybody loves him.
Everybody
You're going
really
to tell
loves
me there's a reason why Michael Harris, you should be afraid to draft him?
Well, he had 19 homers and 20 stolen bases last year with a freaking .297 batting average. That's unbelievable territory these days.
Okay.
But Can he do that again? That's the question. He batted .238 against lefties and .323 against righties. Now, this is not a huge sample size, what we have here. Actually, 414 at-bats in the major leagues.
And he only
So
had
it's
a 24% strikeout rate, right?
24% is not good.
Well,
It's not horrible.
It's definitely
It's not
a
the
red.
worst.
It's a red flag.
Yeah.
Poor plate discipline.
24. Yeah, he absolutely has poor plate discipline. Not only does he strike out 24% of the time, but he only walks less than 5% of the time.
Right.
That would rank him in the bottom 10%. So usually so many walks and so few walks and so many strikeouts would really hurt someone's batting average, right? And this guy's got a .297, but don't ever forget, I always bring this name up when we talk about this, Javi Baez.
Oh, that's true. Javi Baez. And by the way, if you take a look at Harris, his ground ball rate is horrible. Okay?
56.2% ground ball rate. That's second among any He didn't qualify, I don't think.
Okay, but you know who's number one? Christian Yelich. Ground ball rate.
Right. And here's the other thing about the ground ball thing.
Yeah.
Only one qualifier with a ground ball rate of even 50% had an isolated slugging over 200, and it was Vladimir Guerrero, and he had a .217 ISO. It's hard to imagine that Harris is going to be able to do that.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you what I'm happy with. NFL Chief is in the chat room.
Yeah.
I thought for a moment he left, thinking that the show was not for him. But you know something? He's back. So NFL Chief, I don't know your name, but I love you, man. Thanks for coming on. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll find out your name.
Come on.
So anyway.
Michael Harris, he's being drafted really high. His
too high.
ADP is 27.
Too high.
For a 21-year-old hitter.
Yep, okay.
That's too high.
631-406-7141. You can make your call. Don't forget, we don't have a producer, but we'll answer it pretty quickly. Okay, and what about somebody...
The next guy on your list.
...that I like? I kept him in our AL-only keeper league that we just ended the other day. Adolis Garcia. Why is he's age 29... How come Adolis Garcia isn't more popular? I don't get it.
Well, his strikeout rate improved last year.
Well, he had the seventh highest strikeout rate among qualifying batters. Okay,
it improved from 31.2% to 27.9%.
Yeah, all right. So
which is gross.
He scored close to 90 runs last year, but he reached base only at a 300 clip, which suggests he's not going to score.
Don't draft this guy in on-base percentage.
He's only the seventh player in the entire century to score so many with an on-base percentage so low.
If his
Adolis Garcia, by the way, if he's just scoring at home.
If his on-base percentage slips just 20 points, right, and puts him at the 280 mark.
Yes.
It makes you wonder if they're going to even be able to put him in the lineup because you can't steal bases. He does steal bases. A lot of these guys, they steal bases, right? His stolen bases were the highest. He's only been in the majors for 2 years. He first stole 16 bases in 2021. Last year, he stole 25 bases. He got caught 6 times. And his batting average wasn't that bad. It was .250. But when you strike out 27% of the time...
Yes.
And you walk 6% of the time.
Well, back to the busy phones. Go ahead, finish up.
Go ahead, Leonard.
Finish up. Hello, you're on the air.
You have to put him on speaker.
Hold on 1 second. There you go. All right, that's better. What's up there, Chris from Cambridge? How you doing?
As you made the prediction for Harrison Bader, thinking that you might go for the 40-40 club, are you still on that vote?
Yes, sir. Thanks for your call. But Harrison Bader, in my opinion, is going to... Oh, look, stolen bases are going to be high, but he'll steal you 30, and I think he'll hit you 25. He could be the most improved player in Major League Baseball.
That's a bunch of bull dinky and poppycock, Leonard.
Thanks for your call, Chris.
Harrison Bader.
Harrison Bader.
You're crazy. How old is this guy?
You said the same thing about me last year when I said Ahmad Rosario, or was that 2 years ago? I forget who I had last year.
I didn't hate Ahmad Rosario.
Well,
I just didn't think he was that good.
Harrison Bader will be the most improved fantasy player this year.
Why this year and no other year?
Well, because he's on the Yankees now. He's going to play.
Oh, he's on the Yankees now.
Yeah. He's going to hit a
He
home
played
run.
in St. Louis, Leonard.
Doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter.
All right.
But here's the thing about we were talking about. Who were we talking about?
We're talking about your boyfriend, Adolis Garcia.
Oh, Adolis Garcia. He's got terrible on base percentage, but still, he hasn't been a fantasy asset for long. But I think he will be a fantasy asset, Adolis Garcia. And by the way,
here's the thing.
Jay Stubbs is in the chat room. Good
Hello,
morning to Jay Stubbs. Wow.
Adolis Garcia is going 58th overall.
Okay.
That's in the top 10 rounds.
Okay.
That's in the top 6 rounds, right?
Well,
7?
All right.
That's crazy.
How about Starlin Marte? Is this durability, which has never been his strong suit?
No.
And he's getting up there in age now. He last played 150 games when he was 26 years old. He's been going for $30 for forever. Okay? When he was 29, it's the last time he played 140 games. He's now 34. I think you stay away from Starling Marte.
I don't know why you would say durability isn't his strong suit, because the guy's gotten at-bats every single year. Since 2014, he's had like 500 at-bats most seasons. Really close to it.
Okay.
Last year, his season was cut short because he had a broken finger. He was hit by a pitch, and he missed 34 games in the regular season. He still had 505 plate appearances, and he only stole 18 bases.
And his
If you
sprint
compare
speed
that,
dropped. So it did.
it did, because he's 34, and he stole 47 bases in 2021, and he only got caught 5 times.
Okay, last year, what did he steal?
Stop interrupting me.
I'm sorry.
Last year, he stole 18 bases, and he got caught 9 times. He is 34 years old, and his sprint speed absolutely dropped down. Is it going to help him that the bases are bigger? I don't know, because this is a situation where the guy is 34 and he's just not going to be able to run the way he used to. And why would you let him when he's getting caught so much?
And the league-wide changes are making it less valuable to own Starling Marte.
He still had
I'd rather own Jeff Lang, without a doubt. Okay? Go ahead. Who's next? I got one for you. How about Xander Bogaerts? Everybody's drafting Xander Bogaerts, but players, Xander Bogaerts, the writing is on the wall, okay, for Xander Bogaerts. He's been talked about as a great player and this and that, fantasy-wise, but unfair expectations.
Why?
In 2022, he hit 15 home runs, and it wasn't there's talk about they use different baseballs, and it's been talked that Bogaerts really shined. What? When I do a radio show, I have my hands in my pants, okay? I'm sorry. Don't give me funny looks. Gee whiz.
There's a question as to whether or not Bogaerts is going to hit 20 home runs again, because,
He played in Fenway Park, remember?
He did. He loved the Green Monster.
That's right.
It was absolutely helpful towards him. But here's a guy, yes, going to San Diego is not going to help him offensively, but he's surrounded by monsters.
But
hitters,
10 of his
and he
15...
can get on base. He's got great plate discipline.
10 of his 15 home runs came at Fenway. And now he's at Petco. Go ahead.
I just said, I'm
Oh.
not arguing with you.
Oh,
I
okay.
just am agreeing with you. He's probably not going to hit as many home runs, but he's a solid hitter because he gets on base, and that's all he needs to do in San Diego because there's plenty of power around him to get him home.
Okay,
He's absolutely going to be near the top of the lineup.
He'll be
where
reliable.
He fits in great.
But he won't be a star.
His on-base percentage is .377. He walks 10% of the time. He strikes out less than 20% of the time. His contact rate is as good as ever, and he's really just a solid all-around player. No, you can't expect 25 home runs out of him ever again, but he's surrounded by great hitters, and he's going to absolutely benefit from that, as so will his fantasy managers.
Well, don't think that he's a star. Jeff Lang likes what I said about him.
I don't give a shit. Okay?
Well, I want him to come back. So good.
So
nice
you have to
see
kiss up to him?
I kiss up to you.
You have to kiss up to
I kiss
people
up.
to
Do
get
I
them to
kiss
come
up
back?
to you or not?
Suck on it.
Ooh.
How about Andres Gimenez?
Wait a second. Bogarts will still be reliable, but
Yeah, okay.
he's never hitting 30 home runs again. He may struggle to hit 20. Go ahead. Who? Andres? Oh, Andres Gimenez. He was my player last year. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I kept him in the AL only.
Okay.
I love this guy. I do not know if I like exactly where he's being drafted. His ADP is 83 right now.
Yeah.
83 as of this morning. He's got 5 category contributions.
He had 297 last year.
He's only 23 still.
He had 290. Now, you could explain this better than I can. His 297 last year, but his expected batting average was 257.
And he slugged 466, but his expected slugging percentage was only 400.
Okay.
Still.
So what does that mean? Could you explain that to me?
Scott White is saying that he was the biggest overachiever in both batting average and slugging percentage and slugging. His 94th percentile sprint speed that means that, of course, his stolen bases are real, and they might even get better. And plus, defensively, he's absolutely crushes Francisco Lindor, what he ever did for the Guardians.
And he was traded by the Mets for Lindor.
Yeah, and he just crushes Lindor defensively.
Yeah.
So he's a lock, but all right. His stats were bloated a little bit.
Okay.
But he still does contribute in all the categories. He does contribute, and he's only 23 years old still. So I'll tell you what, this Scott White, who's a really
Well,
a
how
good
do you
guy.
know? I don't know if it's Scott White.
I know
so
100% it's Scott White.
Oh, I don't.
So that's fine. We made that clear, but I know it is.
Okay, go ahead.
He says that you can wait for 80 picks and draft Jorge Polanco.
Yeah. Okay.
And he thinks, it's similar player. Well, and he might be right. That's his opinion.
Right. I think Jimenez is going to be overrated this year.
For what reason?
Well, he came out of nowhere. The only people who drafted him last year were the people who listened to me. 631-406-7141.
Not every prospect that turned out to be good is all hyped up, okay?
By me.
In fact, a lot of prospects that turn out to be good aren't hyped up because the hype actually can really hurt a player from being very good because there's too much attention on him. He struck out 20% of the time. That's great for a 23-year-old guy who just had, the last year was his first full season.
Okay.
The year before that, he was a rookie. And I really will say I really like this guy. I think he has great underlying stats. I think he's an all-around hitter. Yeah, his batting average and his on-base percentage might have been a little lucky. His batting average on balls in play was a little high, so you can expect it to come down a little bit, but it's going to come down from 297. And you have a lot of room to come down on that. George Kirby's our next guy.
I'll tell you something. I take a look at
We talk a lot about Kirby.
Well, we talk a lot. I think Seattle. First of all,
can I have your coffee?
I think Luis Castillo is going to be the best pitcher in the American League.
I know, but you didn't draft him.
I didn't draft him, and I should have. All right, but I did draft Marco Gonzalez.
Oh, what are you? Okay,
I did draft Chris Flexen.
You good?
Okay,
so
I got two Seattle
you got two
pitchers.
sucky pitchers.
They're not sucky. They're both very good, and I think Flexen's going to be traded. And if he's traded to a good, they got Flexen, they got Brash.
Hold on,
Kirby, Gonzalez.
If he goes to
Gilbert,
a ballpark,
Ray, and Castillo, Seattle is loaded.
So you're basically telling me that you're hoping that your boy Chris Flexen gets traded.
Yes.
He was horrible in Seattle last year.
No, he wasn't.
He was so bad.
He wasn't
that he's not even in the rotation anymore.
Oh, George is here. Good morning, George.
Flexen was so bad he's not even allowed in the rotation. And you're telling me that a trade out of Seattle is going to help the guy when Seattle has one of the best pitcher ballparks in the country.
They got Castillo, Ray, Gilbert, Gonzalez, and Kirby.
And Flexen doesn't have a job anymore.
Well, he will have a job.
In the bullpen.
Plenty of teams want him. That's for sure.
Are you shitting? Yeah.
No, don't.
Yeah, Little League teams want him.
631. Come on, somebody save me. 406-7141.
He could pitch for Little League.
Go ahead.
Leonard.
Who's next?
George Kirby. We talk a lot about Kirby. He's very exciting.
We just talked about Kirby.
We did not. You've been what?
Who have you been talking about?
Well, we were about to talk about Kirby, and you decided to talk about Luis Castillo. And then we
no,
talked
no,
about Marco
I
Gonzalez.
just mentioned it. Okay?
Let me tell you about Kirby, if you want to know.
All right, go ahead.
He hardly ever walks anybody. That's one of his best assets. He also strikes out batters crazy, okay? But his biggest problem is the fact that he only has one really good pitch. And you have to, in the majors, you're going to have to develop your other pitches, or you will not succeed for the long term. Yes, he's exciting. Yes, he hardly ever walks anybody. And he pitched 130 innings last year at the major league level with a great ERA. And you would say his WHIP is 1.21, which is, you know, when you say, how could this guy's WHIP be so high when he doesn't walk anybody?
Right.
But he allows hits, and that's because he only has one really good pitch. His other pitches are like 260 and above batting average against.
Well, I'll stay away from Kirby. I'd rather have Flexen than Kirby. How's that?
Nobody's going to listen to our show anymore if you say that.
Okay.
You're crazy.
We haven't talked about any one of Eddie's boys.
I like Kirby, but there's a lot of risk here for this youngster.
I think so too.
He needs to develop his pitches.
Flexen.
I'd rather. It's not Flexen that you'd rather have. It's Gilbert that you'd rather have. Linda.
Well,
it's Logan Gilbert.
Okay. You're right. I'd rather have both of those.
You'd rather have Flexen.
I'd rather have Flexen.
Do you know
and
who you're
Gilbert.
talking about? Right
yes,
now?
I like Chris Flexen.
All right. Let's talk about Santander.
All right, that's Eddie's boy. We always have to talk about a
28-year-old guy who, we absolutely, not just us, but most of the people, experts, sources, insiders, whatever you want to call them, were really a little bit petrified of drafting Santander last year because of the ballpark changes. It wasn't great.
Right.
This guy is a switch hitter, but he hasn't been very good from the left, by the way.
Would you rather have...
Anyway, Santander comes in at Baltimore, and he hits more home runs than anybody ever expected.
Right.
He actually just blew it out of the water at home. And Baltimore's it's Camden Yards, right?
Yes, it is.
They had half the home runs that they did the year before.
Right.
So the changes in the ballpark dimensions really did affect the outcome of the number of home runs hit at home. But not to this guy. He absolutely just crushed 33 home runs last year. So Scott White, the writer of this article that we're talking about, he brings up Hunter Renfroe, and he says that Santander is going about 25 spots ahead of Hunter Renfroe, and he calls him a more stable version of he's basically a more stable version of the same player. So he's saying wait 25 spots and draft Hunter Renfroe. But why is he not stable? Well, why is he not stable? His on-base skills are lacking. His career on-base percentage is .300, and his defense is not good. And you know the Orioles are bringing up new talent every day.
Every day.
He's a 30-home-run guy.
I would rather have Renfroe without a doubt.
And he actually, I would say that you really would? You'd rather have Renfroe.
Hunter Renfroe than Santander.
For what reason? This guy, Hunter Renfroe's batting average has got to be one of the worst in baseball, isn't it?
But I think Santander is good, but there are too many. Baltimore's really going to take a look at all of their prospects, and if Santander doesn't shine, he's not going to have a
Well, I disagree with the Hunter Renfroe take, okay? And I'll tell you why. Santander, he doesn't strike out. He's been able to lower his strikeout rate to 18.9%. He walks 8.5%, so he's going to get on base. His batting average on balls in play was only .248 last year, so he got unlucky, actually. His batting, he wasn't very good. I don't know if he needs to stop being a switch hitter and just hit from the right side, because against righties he hit .221, against lefties he hit .293.
Okay. How much did Malpal hit last year? I don't know.
33 home runs last year for Santander, and I take him over Renfroe every day of the week because Renfroe, I just think his batting average is bad.
Would you take Cal Raleigh?
I could be wrong.
Does anybody drafted Cal Raleigh?
A lot of people
He's somebody that's gone totally unnoticed. He struck out close to 30% of the time last year.
His ADP right now is 164.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. That's why he's in this article.
Okay.
He's Mike Zunino Jr.
He put the ball in play about 56% of the time last year. And that's the second most among players with at least 400 plate appearances. So he makes good contact.
No, he doesn't. Well, when he hits, he makes good contact,
well,
but he strikes out 30% of the time.
Okay, I get it. I would take him as my number one catcher any day of the week.
You're going to draft this guy 164 overall as a catcher.
If I can get him, yeah, as my number one catcher.
You're crazy.
Why?
There's at least 20 good catchers, there's between 12 and 20 decent catchers. The catcher pool is so deep, deeper than you've ever seen it, deeper than I've ever seen it, that are viable catchers. The idea that you should draft any catcher at 164 overall
and what's his batting
is crazy.
Average? Is his batting average going to hurt you?
Yes.
That's the key.
His batting average is going to crush you. It's Mike Zunino Jr., dude.
Well, what's Rolly's batting average?
211.
Oh, okay.
It was 211.
All right. I don't want to say you're smarter than me, but so far you're getting there.
Our heads together make us smart.
How about Brandon Drury?
I don't have a problem with Drury, especially because, well, what's his ADP? Let's say what his ADP. 179, Brandon Drury.
Everybody loves Brandon Drury because he had such a great year with Cincinnati, but no longer is he in that ballpark.
No, he's not, but he also plays 3 different positions, I think.
Okay, but you think he's any good?
Do I think he's any good?
Recognizes that he's not likely to repeat his career best year last year. Okay?
Last year he hit 263 with 28 homers, 87 RBIs, 87 runs, and 2 stolen bases. He's eligible at 3 positions.
But he hit 298 in Cincinnati, and he hit 240 everywhere else.
Right. He absolutely hit better in Cincinnati. Now he's going to the Angels.
Okay.
That's not that great for pitchers there.
Right.
He strikes out 22% of the time. It's not horrible. He only walks 6.7% of the time. The article is suggesting that he's going way too high in ADP, which is fine. It depends on what your roster requirements are and what type of league you're in. If you're in an AL-only league, Brandon Drury is a star because he qualifies at all the infield positions. That means you could put him at corner and middle, too. Mm-hmm. And he's a serviceable player. RotoWire has him projected to hit 258 with 23 homers, 2 stolen bases, 74 RBIs, and 71 runs. So, no, you can't expect 90 RBIs and 90 runs like he was able to do in Cincinnati because that ballpark is so much better for hitters, and he's not going to hit close to 30. I would say close to 20 home runs. So lower your expectations a little, but it depends on what your requirements are, and he's absolutely great for only leagues because of his position eligibility.
All right, let's do one more, a player that you can still get late in the draft, but I don't think his value is what it was. And we're talking about Josh Rojas, whose value... He stole 23 bases last year.
Yeah, he did.
Okay?
But he's fast, isn't he fast?
He's a fast runner. He's eligible at second base, third base, and those could be
guy eligible everywhere.
Those could be the 2 weakest positions in fantasy baseball. All right? He stole 23 bases. I'm just mentioning his name because at the end of the draft, stolen bases, of course, are about to explode.
Yeah.
Okay.
His average draft position right now, Josh Rojas, Arizona Diamondbacks, 201. He hit 9 home runs and stole 23 bases. Now, Scott brings up in this article that his sprint speed is actually in the 50th percentile. It is not extra high like Andres Gimenez. It is not like, some of these guys that we are sure, but still, isn't the fact that there's going to be so many more stolen bases, it's going to help him too. So he stole 25 stolen bases last year. You can expect him to steal 30 bases, right?
Okay.
He is able to play multiple positions, which will get him going. And
I like multiple positions. What about you?
They have Evan Longoria and Emmanuel Rivera, so he probably won't spend as much time at third base as we expected before they signed Evan Longoria, but he's still going to get into the lineup and he's going to steal a lot of bases.
This week,
his ADP.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to tell you made up for what you did last week. What? You made up for it. I'm complimenting you.
I made up for it?
For what you did last week, you absolutely made up for it this week. I'm telling you, you're good.
So I'm the one to blame for last week.
You're good. Anyway, got to thank everybody for being here today. Really, look at this crowd.
RotoWire only has him projected for 15 stolen bases.
Look at this crowd. Boston Paul, Chris from Cambridge, Chris Gallo, Then, if you want to call and say goodbye, 631-406-7141. It's commercial free. Eddie Caprio, Daniel Ferrara has joined us. Eddie Heckman, George, James Caplion, Jeff Lang, Merrill, Mitchell, Mal, Pal, NFL Chief, could be Jay Stubbs, and a cast of thousands. Potato Pete is here. Look at you guys. I love you. And all you guests next week, if you could...
There's Ron Z. That's somebody. They put their own name in there.
That's great, Ron Z.
Is here.
If you could just register. You
don't have to.
It's free, but we get to see your names. Okay?
Have
Anything
a great
else?
Sunday afternoon.
Anything else?
Just, we'll see you in the morning.
Okay. See you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Got to thank everybody. And we will.
And if you haven't had a chance yet, I'm putting together the mixed leagues. I know I said this last week, but I am putting together the mixed leagues. All I need is your Fantrax email, and you can get into the leagues for free. We have 2 leagues going this year. There's a couple spots, so we might have to play in both leagues. But if you want to play, there's still a spot or 2, and we will get those drafts started. We're going to do slow drafts, so everybody will have 4-hour picks.
Yeah.
Don't need to take it all.
Wait a second. Daniel Ferrara just gave me the biggest compliment. The Graham brothers, Eddie and Jerry.
Is that a compliment?
They were my favorite tag team combination in the 50s, especially when they beat Mark Lewin and Don Curtis. I'll never forget the match that made me cry. It was Lewin and Curtis against the Graham brothers, and I rooted for Lewin and Curtis. And then the Graham brothers, their manager, Bobby Davis, came into the ring and threw pepper in the eyes of Mark Lewin, and the Graham brothers beat Lewin and Curtis for the title.
I bet George remembers that.
George doesn't remember, but Daniel Ferrara remembers it. Okay.
Have a great day, everybody.
Everybody, we say how many bases? Let's just go through this. Ron Z wants how many bases will Mateo steal? Yeah, I agree. It could be 40. All right, it could be 40.
So is he going to play all the time? Let me look him up.
Who?
Our
Yeah, Mateo's going to
just
play.
check.
I like Kikuchi has made changes in his arm slot. I drafted Kikuchi in our league, so I'm happy I did that.
Eddie should be answering this question.
All right. Anyway, Joe Garagiola is not available. All right.
Does Jorge Mateo? Yes, he plays shortstop.
Definitely plays shortstop.
So he's a starting shortstop. RotoWire has him at 21 stolen bases projected. Do you think he'll steal more than that?
Oh, absolutely is going to steal 30.
27.6% strikeout rate.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at 9
He's got a
o'clock.
90th percentile in sprint speed.
You have a 95 percentile.
Stop yelling.
Goodbye, everybody.
The guy is a fast runner. So I think that I really think RotoWire is undercounting these projections for stolen bases. You can't base your projections on what's been done. You have to add some stolen bases to all these projections because 21 is not. He's going to steal more than that. All right.
Okay.
That's it. Goodbye.
Thanks.